you can't do anything without faith. If you don't believe it's going to get better, you're not going to have the motivation to come in here and do the things you need to do when you're feeling your worst to get to your best. Hey guys, so as a lot of you know, I've been dealing with some injuries. I had dual disc herniation in my neck. That's been kind of getting better on its own, just doing traction and whatnot on my neck. But what was really the big problem was my hip, and that took me out of the world. So in January, I was squatting in a gym when I was on vacation, and I shifted at the bottom, got out of position, and really started to have a lot of pain after that. And that pain continued for weeks and weeks, and I was diagnosed with bursitis. I had 2 cortisone injections, I had high-dose anti-inflammatories, 2,400 milligrams of ibuprofen a day, even tried an experimental anti-inflammatory. None of those touched it whatsoever. I was told I would need a bursectomy, which is basically taking the bursa of the hip capsule out. And I started doing some research, not just Googling, looking at actual medical journals. And it ends up that bursitis is commonly diagnosed, but is not that common. So it's kind of a garbage can term for people who have hip pain that they can't diagnose. So before I decided to get a bursectomy, to go to that level of getting surgery, I wanted to try physical therapy, got a second opinion, and got referred to a really good physical therapist named Jayme Alambra. And she's been working with me for 6 weeks, and it's really made a huge difference. I went from not being able to squat 135 without like an 8 out of 10 pain to now squatting high 200s for sets of 5 with no pain. So it's really made a huge difference, and what we're going to go through today is some of the things Jayme's been having me do, and why she's been having me do them that have been helping get my hip better. So I'd like to introduce my physical therapist, Jayme Alambra.
Hey guys, my name's Jayme. Been helping Layne out for about 6 weeks, you said, right?
Yeah, 6 weeks.
So,
what do you think? So obviously, like, we had an MRI, it showed it to be clear. You had some possible ideas of, one, what was maybe causing my hip shift in the squat, 2, what maybe actually happened that caused my injury.
Right. So I guess on your assessment we found there was limited range of motion, rotation, actually on your right hip.
Yeah.
It's the left hip that's affected, and that rotation, that lack of rotation, might have been the culprit for why you started to shift over. So we did a bunch of joint mobilizations, assessed hip strength, so unilateral strength, which I don't think much of you guys tend to train.
Right.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I was pretty weak on my was it right hip, right?
It was actually your left, I think.
And my left glute was very weak.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
I have an underactive left glute apparently.
yes, he's got left glutitis. So we did a lot of unilateral training, joint mobilizations, recess measurements of the internal rotation, which actually now you've got great hips.
My hips don't lie.
So mobility's back, movement's back, looking strong, less of a shift.
Yeah, and then I think we also play with my stance a little bit.
Yeah,
So
we talked about your shoes too, going back, because I think we had changed the heel.
Yeah, so I used to squat in an Olympic lifting shoe, and I would squat with feet very much forward, and I didn't hip shift when I was using that. But when I changed over to power lift trainers, I opened my stance up and changed shoes. I started shifting, and so what we did was I'm still wearing the non-Olympic lifting shoes, but we put my stance back to feet more forward. I think to kind of actually like close up the hips a little bit, so I'd stay in line a little bit.
Right. Yeah, because I think the knees. I think you had that. We use cues knees out, but I think sometimes it could be the wrong cue knees in the correct context. And maybe the knees were being pushed too far out beyond where they were.
You told me you want them over the
second toe.
Over the second toe.
But also, I think part of your success is also getting a good history. So, and I think that prompted me to ask questions leading up to, well, why did your pain start? Right?
Yeah.
Because it was, when did you change your shoes? When did you change your stance? Things like that. So,
Yeah.
there's things to contribute.
Yeah, and interestingly, I never really got hurt much when I was having my toes more forward. Even back-wise, I didn't really get hurt. It wasn't until I started kind of pointing my toes out until I started getting injured. So, I mean, I guess it's possible even shifting could have affected my lower back. I mean,
Possible.
yeah.
Absolutely. It's a
So,
whole story.
so let's talk about some of the things we've been doing. What would you? So let's go through some of the core things we've been doing.
And what we're going to do is engage your lower half of your leg. You're going to pull the shoulder into the socket, tuck your scapula to your hip. 10 big breaths from your lower rib cage. So right now we're just trying to open up the shoulder, give yourself a little bit more mobility. You should feel a big stretch or pull down the whole line. If you don't, you can take your heels and step back a little bit further.
The worst dog is going to wiggle and move going.
Now, what is this doing for?
So, well, if you can take a step back a little bit more. There you go. Push the knee back. So we're working on engaging lower trap, but also working on your breathing as well, right? Because that Valsalva is important. You want to be able to expand the lower ribs, get your diaphragm active. And in the process, I might try to get a nice stretch going down the front. Big stretch. Does that feel okay?
Yep.
And this is not the last time that you'll hear my name.
Layne apparently wasn't doing too much mobility and dynamic warm-up. So we discussed kind of what potentially could lead into his injury, and so we found that we were lacking on his side. So I gave him just one gross general dynamic stretch to do, which I call world's greatest stretch. So what he's going to do is basically a bunch of hip openers and also get a little bit of trunk rotation involved as well as shoulder work done at the same time. So it encompasses every movement grossly that you want to incorporate into some type of a warm-up. So go ahead, Layne. So he's basically going to take one leg, put it out in front of him. He's going to rotate up, hand outside the foot, and then he'll lean back. Good. Push the knee out. Get an adductor stretch. Rotate towards. Good. And then pull back. So he does this about 8 to 10 times, right? 8 to 10 times on each side, just to get some gross stretching occurring in the shoulders, the hips, the back, piriformis especially for him, and some hamstring as he pulls back into the stretch. You're going to keep your hips level. Go ahead and weight shift to one side though, because you want to stabilize the standing leg. And what you're going to do is, as well as you can stay level, just baby kick 10 kicks forward, and then 10 kicks out to the side, and you're looking to maintain a good neutral spine while you're actively engaging that glute right there. So we're just slow controlled movement. So we're just looking for stabilization, and obviously it's going to be harder to kick out to the side, which in this case you're supposed to need to. And then you're just going to kick just a small range of motion kind of back to my foot once you're ready to get there without the back arching too much. So again, just trying to stay stable on that single leg. And then once you're done there, I'll have you do the other side.
So what's this doing for me?
So basically we're just trying to stabilize one side at a time. And also I consider this kind of like muscle prep before you get started squatting, deadlifting, whatever the activity is. We just want to get the glutes fired up. which hopefully by the time you get out to the side, you can start feeling a little bit more fatigue.
Yeah, I definitely feel it.
Okay, so I call these knee wobbles. Basically, Layne's going to stand in his squat stance, keeping neutral spine. Again, another exercise to engage the glute, and now obviously it's a bilateral exercise, so both legs involved. He's going to find control, drop down to a squat, and basically what he's doing is we're working to stabilize the leg that's not moving. So he's got a good visual cue because he's in front of the mirror, and he's just pushing one knee out and then controlling to come back in, but not crossing over that second toe. I know.
15 aside, right?
Correct. Yeah. And again, just looking to stabilize that one side. Okay, so the last thing that Layne's going to do is a towel row with external rotation. We're looking to engage, again, lower trap, lats. He basically is going to start in kind of his bench position where shoulder blades are pinched down and back, and he's going to try to maintain that the whole way that he's rowing. So he does 10 reps of these, slow controlled motion. Should feel the burn between the shoulder blades. A little bit up high as well once you get to the rotations. So we're doing this because for squat, bench, deadlift, it's important to have a strong back. And so this is a great way to just kind of muscle prep, get muscle activation before he actually gets into his training.
We're doing these when we rotate it, right?
Yes, that's perfect.
You might say it was Paul's tagline. Fantastic.
Good? All right, you're warmed up.
Cool. Do we want to show...
Go squat 700. Layne, I have him doing eccentric on his, we're going to demonstrate squat. And the recent eccentric training has been shown to help with healing. And so it's been very effective in Layne's case to help with his bursitis, which is not his bursitis. So basically, I have him take about a 6-second count to get down to the bottom of his squat, or 2 parallel. If he has pain, he's going to squat to the pain, pause for 2 seconds, and then he'll come right back up. Okay, so I think Layne's about to get into his lifting session, but I tend to be on the conservative side, so anytime he's like, nah, it feels okay, I'm like, no, you have pain, if you just tell me it feels okay. So I'm going to do some hip mobility just to see if it helps to clear it. He's been responding pretty well to it, so I'm going to go ahead and do something for rotation. And then if he still needs it, after we do an assessment, post-assessment, then we can just move on to a different mobilization. So
I do not have pain. I don't feel pain.
does not feel pain. I don't know what he feels. So this is not ideal for me, so he's actually going to make me squat today.
Tell me I couldn't do nothing, yeah. Don't you know I put it down? Cause I'm the animal. Cause I'm the animal. Cause cause I'm the king. This is not last year, and I am not done here. This is not last year, I am not done. And this is not the last time that you'll hear my name, and this is not the place for me to explain. I'm good, this is not the pain talking, this is